Hey everyone, today I am going to give you 10 things to do when you are buried in debt. And I know personally this can be a super stressful time, so please stick with me and I'm going to give you 10 tips to help you during this time get out of debt. Hey everyone, this is Lauren Mack with Hacking the Rat Race, and I would love for you to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more videos on money, saving, and investing. So let's jump right in. All right, so today, like I said, I am gonna give you 10 things to do if you are buried in debt. So we're just gonna start with number 1. So the first thing is to review your income and your expenses. And I know this might seem really obvious, but a lot of people don't do this because A, they don't wanna look at it because it's too painful, because they don't wanna see how much is coming in or how much isn't coming in and how much is going out. Or people think, you know what, I already know that. Like, I know how much my rent is, I know how much I spend approximately, but you would be surprised. I have worked with so many people, and this one area surprises people often, because here's the thing. Often there are things that maybe you spend a few dollars here, a few dollars there, and you don't realize how much it adds up to. And the second thing is, some people have things coming in like subscriptions or maybe renewals on things they didn't even know about, and because they're not looking at it, it's just taking away money from their bank account and they don't even know. And these little slices over time can make a huge difference. And if you fall into the category of people who are thinking, you know what, I don't want to look at it because I don't want to see how much money I don't have or how many bills I do have, I just can't handle it. Here's the thing. You have to look at it because you have to come up with a plan, and you already know you're buried in debt. So this is the best way to start. Just sit down and go through your income expenses and list them out. This is so important, and this is really the number 1 step. So number 2 is going to be creating a budget and creating a budget plan. So once you've looked at your income and expenses and you kind of have an idea of what you're spending money on, it's time to put them in a budget. So you want to have a budget, even if this means you have way more budget at the end of your month, it's okay. Even if this means you have way more budget currently at the end of your money, you need to have a starting point. We need to draw a line in the sand and see where you are, and then we need to start monitoring the money coming in and out. And again, this doesn't have to be this painful thing. I mean, sure, it may not be the most fun thing ever, but here's the deal. Once you have a plan, once you have a budget, you can know maybe areas that you can cut, or maybe if you need to make a little bit more money, how much more money that you are going to need to make, and we can start looking at those things. If you haven't ever made a budget before, or you have, but you're kind of rusty, I have another video, I'll link to it above, and it is how to create a super simple budget. I'll also put it in the comments below, and at the end of this video, you can check out that video if you need help creating a super simple budget. For this step though, I highly recommend taking your income and expenses that you reviewed and putting them into a budget. Even if that budget is just handwritten, write it out. Here's how much money I'm bringing in. This is how much I'm spending on all the different things, and be realistic. When you're creating this budget, you don't want to say something like, okay, guess what? I'm only going to eat rice and beans for the next 6 months. I mean, if you're really serious about this, or if you really have to do that, okay. But most people aren't really serious about that, and it's not realistic. So just be gentle with yourself and come up with a budget that's going to work for you. Number 3 is going to be negotiating your interest rates. And this is also really important because interest rates, let's say on credit cards, the average right now is about 20%. Depending on how high your credit card debt is, this can be a lot of money. This doesn't just have to be for a credit card. This is literally for any debt that you owe. People think that interest rates are not negotiable, but they are, especially on credit cards. So if you have credit cards or whatever kind of debt and you make your payments on time, then I would call and I would just say something like, you know what? Make sure you put a smile on your face when you're talking to them, no matter how difficult it can get, and just say, look, I have been a customer with you for this long. I have always made my payments on time. I've hit a rough patch and I really need a reduction on my interest rates. And if they say, okay, then work from there. If they say no, then I would say, okay, I might need to consider going with another company because, for example, of the credit card, you can say I've been getting 0% interest credit card offers. I've been getting other credit card offers with introductory offers that are much lower. So I would love to still be your customer, but I'm really gonna need you to work with me on the interest rate. And most likely they will say yes, but if they don't, do not get mad and frustrated with them because you're trying to get them to help you, but I would just keep pressing the issue. Now, if you fall into the second category where maybe you haven't been able to make your payments on time and you've missed payments, I would still call them, but instead of telling them I've been a customer for X amount of time and I've always made my payments on time, I would just tell them, look, I have hit a rough spot and I really need help right now and I cannot afford this interest rate. I'm trying to work in good faith to pay this debt back, and if you could please work with me on the interest rate, I would really appreciate it. And again, this goes for credit cards, mortgages, personal loans, basically any kind of loan, installment loans, car loans, student loans. If you are in trouble and you are not able to pay or you haven't been paying, call. They will come up with a way to help you. It's in their best interest to have you start paying again. So number 3, and this is a really big one because this can end up saving you so much money and bring your monthly payments down to something that's more reasonable, is negotiating your interest rate. Number 4, if you are super buried in debt and you are afraid, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make my next payment, I don't know what I'm gonna do, I would suggest doing a temporary cash diet and literally freezing your credit cards. And what I mean by freezing your credit cards is putting them in a baggie with water and putting them in the freezer so that when you want to use them or need to use them, they literally have to thaw out before you can use them. And while they're frozen, I recommend going on a cash diet, meaning you pay for everything with cash. This often helps people spend less because it is more painful, and also keep track of how much money is actually being spent because it's a lot easier to track when you're actually paying out cash versus just swiping your credit card. So I highly recommend going on a cash diet and literally freezing your credit cards so that you stop using them, because if you can't pay them off and you're buried in debt, every time you swipe your credit card, you're gonna be paying even more interest, which is just gonna compound the issue further. Number 5 is going to be starting an emergency fund. This is also very important because if you don't have an emergency fund, and emergencies happen to everyone, then you're going to be getting into more debt to fund your emergency. So for this, I actually created a 30-day emergency fund savings challenge. I will also link to that above as well in the show notes and as well at the end of this video. And the great thing about the 30-day emergency fund savings challenge is it gets you to save $500 in 30 days, but every day of the 30-day, there's a video, and every day has a savings tip, so you don't have to come up with extra money. Because oftentimes when I've talked to people who are buried in debt, they say, Lauren, where am I gonna come up with extra money for my emergency fund? I already don't have enough money and I'm already buried in debt. I can't afford to come up with more money. Well, the great thing about the 30-day emergency fund challenge, which is 100% free, by the way, there's a workbook, everything is free, is that every day you get a savings tip. And these savings tips can help you save in other areas, so you can use that money to put it towards your emergency fund so you're not having to come up with extra money. Number 6 is don't ignore your bills. If you're having a hard time, call the company and ask for help. That can be deferring payments, that could be forbearance, that could be reducing your interest rate. Whatever you do though, don't ignore your bill. Call the creditor, because here's the thing. If you ignore the bill, now you're gonna have late fees and all kinds of fees on top of what you're already having to pay, which is just going to make the problem worse. Again, the creditors, whoever they are, they want you to pay. They want their money back, so they will work with you. Ignoring your bills, while it might seem like the easiest thing to do when you're buried in debt and you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but really this is gonna make it worse because a lot of times those fees are really high. So don't ignore your bills. If you can't make your payments, then reach out to your creditors and have them work with you. They will work with you. Just give them a call. So number 7 is going to be paying off your debt in a debt snowball. This is where you take the smallest debt you owe first. Maybe you have an old electric bill from a while ago that you haven't paid, or a medical bill, or maybe you have a credit card that has a smaller balance. Whatever it is, you just start tackling those first. So you pay the minimum on everything else, and any extra money that you can put together, you pay that one off. And then once that one's paid off, you roll all that money into paying the next one off and the next one off until you are out of debt. And the reason it's good to pay the smallest balance off first is because it gives you momentum. You have one debt gone. So number 7 is going to be paying your debt off, smallest to largest, with any extra money that you have. And again, if you do your budget and you look at your income and expenses, and maybe if you do the emergency fund challenge and you look at the savings tips, you can take those savings, or on your budget, if there's places that you can cut down, you can take that money and start paying your debt off. The faster you pay off your debt, the more money you're going to save on interest, which is going to give you more money to put towards paying off the rest of your debt. Number 8 is kind of something I would say don't do, or at least do your due diligence, and that's looking at debt relief companies. Sometimes these are predatory companies. I would just be really careful if you decide to go with one, that you do your due diligence and you really check beforehand. If you just see an ad, do not just go with a debt relief company. First, before you even contact a debt relief company, number 1, call your creditors, call all of them. Try to negotiate your interest rates, try to negotiate your payments so that they can be more affordable on your own. And second, if you have a lot of, say, credit card debt, before I would work with a credit relief company, I would look at transferring your balances to a 0% interest card. And a lot of them will have 0% interest for a year, 18 months. And I actually have another video called the 5 best cashback credit cards, and I will link to that above and in the show notes below. In that one, there are 3 of the 5 cards which have a 0% APR interest rate, anywhere from 12 to 18 months. And additionally, on those cards, you can get cash back. That being said, I would only use that if you know that you are not going to spend any more money on it, and you can use it responsibly, because the worst thing you want to do is get another credit card and get further into debt. However, if you have a plan and you're committed to paying your debt off and your interest rate, say 20%, I would highly recommend looking at transferring it to a 0% interest rate card, and that way you can pay it off faster because you're paying way less in interest. So number 8 is just be very careful before using a debt relief company. Please do your due diligence, and again, negotiate with your creditors and possibly transfer your balance before I would go with something like that. Number 9 is looking at getting a part-time job or a side hustle. But again, before you can even consider this, you need to do number 1 and number 2. You need to know how much money you need to make. And I know you might be thinking, Lauren, I am tired, I am worn out, I work all day, and I work long hours, and the last thing I want to do is work more. I totally get it, I do. But here's the thing, if you look at your income and expenses, if you can't cut down anymore and you do need more money, this is when it's key, because here's the thing, you can look at how much more money do I need for how long, and maybe you can commit to that part-time job or that side hustle for X amount of time just to clear that money, right? So you don't have to do this forever, and maybe if you have a total dollar amount, let's just say it's $5,000. Okay, I'm gonna get a part-time job, or I'm gonna do a side hustle, and I'm gonna make this $5,000. Again, maybe you can do a couple side hustles, and this might make you hustle a little bit harder, because once you hit that, say, goal, whatever it is, then you can be done. You don't have to do it anymore. And if you're thinking, I don't even know what I would do, I also have a video, 30 unique side hustles when you desperately need it. I will link to it above, in the show notes below, and at the end of this video. And it is just 30 ideas for side hustles that you can start right away. Some of them you can literally start making money the same day or the next day, and a lot of them you can do in your free time. So I highly recommend checking that out if you're considering doing a part-time job or a side hustle and you don't really know what you should do. But here's the thing, if you really have a gap at the end of your month and you're not gonna make enough money, I would highly recommend looking at this at least on a temporary basis so that you can get enough money to cover your bills. And number 10 is looking at the root cause and kind of like why. So is it because maybe you're eating out a lot? Maybe you're going out and drinking a lot? Maybe you're hanging out with friends? Maybe you have a habit? Or maybe you just love shopping where you're just overspending? This could be something to look into as well. And another thing is, I know a lot of people spend money because maybe they're insecure. And I know what you're thinking. I'm not insecure. No way. It's not, I just like having nicer things, or I like doing this. And maybe that is true for you. I just know there are so many people who cover their insecurities by spending. And if you sit down and have a heart-to-heart with yourself and ask yourself why? Why do I need this? Why do I need that? Why do I need this standard? Maybe you drive a car that you absolutely can't afford, but it's a status symbol and it looks like you made it. And again, you may not consciously be thinking this, but maybe if you ask yourself, why do I need this expensive of a car? And your first answer might be something like, well, I deserve it. Or I love luxury cars. Whatever that thing is, try to go a little bit deeper. But what if you didn't have it? Or what if you downgraded and it would literally make so much more money in your budget to be doing these other things? Ask yourself the why. And then when you find out the why or the root cause, even if it is something as simple as I just love eating out all the time, or maybe something even deeper like I think people will judge me if I don't have X lifestyle. Whatever that is, I think you should dig into that, because a lot of times if you can reconcile those things, it can be life-changing for you in general, but also it can help with your budget because you're not overspending in areas that are unnecessary. And one more thing I would like to add. I know that being buried in debt can be very stressful. And I know that a lot of times it can feel like the end of the world, like it's never gonna get better. Like this is literally the end of the rope and I don't know what to do. All I would like to say is if that is you, please tell someone how you're feeling, because this is temporary. It doesn't matter how bad it is and how bad it feels right now. It is 100% temporary, and you can absolutely get out of debt and you still have so much hope and so much ahead of you. Because I can tell you that there was a time in my life that I was so far in debt, I was hardly making any money at all, and I felt like this is going to take forever. Like I literally have a mountain in front of me. But you know what? I did what I said before. I looked at my income expenses. I made a budget. I made a budget plan to pay off my debt. I did the snowball method, and slowly but surely I climbed the mountain, and climbed the mountain, and I paid it all off. So you can get out of this. This is a legit temporary problem, and if you are just really having a hard time with this, and especially if you're really down on yourself, please reach out and speak to someone. Don't go through this alone. All right, so I want to hear from you in the comments below. Which tip are you going to implement first? So those are the top things to do if you are buried in debt. And like I said, if you are interested in any of those other videos I mentioned, they will be at the very end of this video. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit the like button. It literally costs nothing and it does so much for this channel. It helps push this video out to other people who need help, who are also buried in debt. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more videos on money, saving, and investing. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next video.